Hello everyone and welcome back once again. This is your science teacher here, and this time I am here with a new chapter of Ncert grade 7, that is weather, climate and adaptation of animals to climate. Students, here this chapter is mainly about the weather and climate, and further it also about that how different forms of living organisms adapt themselves to the climate of their own habitat. Students, moreover, as you all know that people can know about day-to-day weather forecasting reports from the newspapers, news channels, the internet, etc. And in addition, we predict the weather and meteorological department prepares a report after analyzing different aspects of our environment like temperature, wind, humidity and many of that particular place. So students, at the end, by going through this chapter, it will become easier for all of you to understand the difference between the weather and climate of a place, and it will also help you to understand that how animals adapted themselves according to their habitat. So let's start. Now students, the first topic of this chapter is weather. Students, weather is the state of the atmosphere for a particular area and for a particular time period. And students, this weather of a place could change any time. And students, the different elements that affects the weather of a place are rainfall, temperature, humidity, snowfall, storms, winds, etc. So students, these are the elements that affects the weather of a place. And students, a weather report of a place generally contains the information of that area of that particular day. And students, for this work, the government has a special department called the meteorological department that predict the weather of a particular place and prepare the weather report. And students, these weather reports are generally published in newspapers, radio and television in order to alert the peoples. And students, do you know why the government has made a special department for weather forecasting? Students, it is so because many of our day-to-day activities are based on weather conditions. For example, we can check the possibility of rainfall on a particular day. Then students, according to that weather forecast report, we carry an umbrella with us accordingly. And that's why the government has made a special department for weather forecasting. And students, the most important thing about weather is that weather of a place is never constant and it can alter every day or even every hour or every minute. For example, the weather of a particular place might be sunny in the morning while rainy in the evening. And students, the weather report of a place always measured by using a device called minimum and maximum thermometer. And students, this minimum and maximum thermometer includes the minimum and maximum temperature of a particular place. And students, as you all know that the minimum temperature of a particular place can be experienced in the morning time while the maximum temperature of a place is raised in the afternoon. And students, in the same way, we can also measure the rainfall of a place by the help of an instrument called rain gauge, as you can see here in this image. This one is the instrument called rain gauge that can help us to measure the rainfall of a place. And students, as you can see here, this rain gauge instrument collects the rainwater of origin, and it also has a scale, as you can see here in this image, which determines the quantity of rainfall of that particular place. Now students, let's understand that how do changes in weather occur. Students, all changes in the weather are caused by the sun, and the sun is a huge sphere of hot gases at a very high temperature. And students, the distance of the sun from the earth is very large, and even then the energy sent out by the sun is so huge that it is the source of all heat and light on the earth. So we can say that the sun is the primary source of energy that causes changes in the weather of a particular place. And students, the energy of the sun absorbed and reflected by the earth's surface, ocean and the atmosphere plays a prominent role in determining the weather of a particular place. And students, the formation of winds, the phenomena of rainfall and the change in the seasons all occur just because of the radiation of the sun. Now students, there is a question that why days are shorter in the winter season. Students, as you all know that the earth is spin on its own axis around the sun. And students, hence the amount of sunlight a place receives varies throughout the year because of the revolution and rotation of earth around the sun. And students, due to these movements of the earth, the change in the seasons of a place also occurred. And students, in contrast to winter season, during the summer season, the position of the earth is closer to the sun and hence it receives sunlight for longer hours, while in the winter season the position of the earth is farther to the sun and hence the earth receives sunlight for shorter hours during winter season, and that's why the days are shorter in the winter season. Now students, let's understand that what is climate and how climate is different from weather. Students, climate is the average measurements of temperature, wind, humidity, snow and rain in a place over the course of time, means over a long period of time. For example, 25 years or 30 years. For example, as you all know that the temperature of Rajasthan is generally high throughout the year and Rajasthan doesn't receive much rainfall. So we can say that Rajasthan is a hot and dry place. Now students, let's understand that how the animals of a particular place adapt themselves according to the climate of that place. Students, climate has a profound effect on all living organisms of that place and hence animals are adapted to survive in the condition in which they live. So students, the animals and other living organisms of that particular place adapted themselves according to the climate of that place in order to survive in the weather condition of that particular place. So students, animals living in very cold and hot climate must possess special features to protect themselves against the extreme cold or heat. And students, the tropical and the polar regions of the earth are the two important regions of the earth which have severe climatic conditions. Now students, the first example of such severe climatic conditions are polar regions. Students, as you all know, the area of the earth that surrounds the North Pole and the South Pole is called the polar region. And students, these regions are covered with snow and it is very cold for most part of the year. And here for 6 months the sun doesn't set at the poles, while for the other 6 months the sun doesn't rise. So students, during the winter season the temperature in the polar region can be as low as -37°C. The animals that live here in these extreme conditions have adapted themselves according to the climate of these regions in order to survive there. And students, the most common animals that are found in these regions are polar bears and penguins. And students, the other animals that you can see here in these polar areas are leopard seal, Arctic wolf, Arctic fox, walrus, etc. And all these animals adapted themselves so that they can survive in these extreme conditions. Now students, here is a case study of a polar bear, that how can polar bear adapt themselves in these extreme conditions, and what are the important features that polar bear adapted in order to survive there in polar areas. Students, the first thing is the white fur. Students, the white fur of the polar bear makes it easier to hide in the white snow, and hence that's how polar bears save themselves from their predators. And students, in the same way, due to the white color of the fur make it easier to catch its prey. Nextly, the polar bears have 2 layers of thick fur on their body so that they can survive in these extreme cold conditions, because these furs helps polar bear to keep their body warm. Now students, the next feature is that the polar bears move slowly and rest a lot so that they do not get overheated because of their thick fur, and hence that's how polar bear retain the energy of its body. Now students, as I said that polar bears have 2 layers of thick fur on their body so that they can survive extremely in cold conditions. So during warm days, polar bear swim in order to themselves cool. The next important feature is that the paws of the polar bear are large and wide, that help it to swim as well as walk easily in the snow. Now students, the next important features that polar bear adapted is that they can swim underwater very well, because polar bears can keep the nostrils closed for a long time, and that's why they can swim underwater very long time. And students, the last thing is that polar bears have very strong sense of smell that helps it to locate its prey during such harsh weathers. Now students, the next animal that adapt itself according to the harsh climate of the polar regions is the penguin. Students, like the polar bears, the penguins are also white in color, and that's how they can hide themselves in the snow. The next important feature is thick skin with large fat. Students, polar bears have thick skin with large fat content in their body, and students, that's why they can survive the cold weather easily. And students, the most interesting features about penguins is that they generally live in a crowd, and students, their crowd called nest. And students, do you know why they do so? Students, they do so in order to keep them warm. That's why they generally lives in a crowd. Now students, the next feature is that they have webbed feet like the polar bears, and students, these webbed feet help penguins to swim in water. Now students, let's understand that how the birds in the polar regions survives in such an extreme conditions. Students, in order to survive, the birds in the polar regions do migration. Students, do you know what is migration? Students, migration means seasonal movement of animals from one region to another. So here in polar regions, the birds, in order to protect themselves or to survive in such an extreme conditions, the birds often migrate from these polar areas to warmer places, and then these migratory birds return back after the winter season. For example, the Siberian crane. Students, this bird, Siberian crane, migrates to India in Rajasthan, Haryana and some northeast regions of India during the winter seasons from the Siberia. And students, after the winter seasons, when the conditions in the Siberia are again favorable for them, then they again migrated from India to Siberia. And that's why these birds are known as migratory birds. Students, you will amazed to know that these migratory birds can even travel 15,000 kilometer distance in order to protect themselves from the extremely cold environment. And students, such migratory birds migrate to the same places every year. And students, these migratory birds usually fly very high so that the heat generated by the flight wings can be disposed of in the cold conditions. Now students, the next important features of these migratory birds are that they have a very strong sense of direction. That's why they can travel to the same place every time. Students, in the same way, these birds also use the landmarks or follow the direction of the sun and stars to migrate. In the same way, some migratory birds also use the magnetic field of the earth in order to find the direction of their destination. And students, not only birds, in fact, fishes, insects, mammals also migrate in order to survive themselves from the extreme climatic conditions. Students, the next extreme condition of earth are tropical rainforest. Students, these tropical regions are the regions on the earth which are very close to the equator, and hence due to very close to the equator, these areas receive very large amount of sunlight during the years. And students, due to this, these tropical regions of earth have a hot climate. And students, the colored region that you see in this image are the tropical regions on earth that receives more amount of sunlight during the year. Students, here in the tropical regions, the temperature can be high as 40 degrees Celsius and drop until 15 degrees Celsius. The next important feature of these tropical regions is that the length of the day and night are almost equal. However, these tropical regions receive a lot of rainfall, and so all the tropical rainforests are found in these tropical regions on earth. And students, as I said, that these tropical regions receive a lot of rainfall. That's why these tropical rainforests are home of a wide variety of vegetation and animals. And students, due to large habitation, the animals of these tropical rainforests often compete for food in these regions. In the same way, many animals in these tropical rainforests adapted themselves in such a way to live on trees and find their food easily there. Similarly, some animals also change their body color in order to save themselves from their predators. And students, in the same way, many animals also have a very good eyesight and better sense of hearing that helps them to catch their prey easily and protect themselves from their predators. Now students, here are some animals of the tropical rainforest that adapted themselves in order to catch and save themselves from their predators. As the first one is the red-eye frog. Students, this red-eye frog has a sticky feet so that it can climb up on the trees easily. The next one is monkeys. Students, monkeys have long tails so that they can climb the trees easily. And students, even their hands and feet have a structure that helps them in holding the branches of the trees very easily. Now students, the next animal is token bird. Students, these token birds adapt themselves so that they can find their food easily, and for this token bird has a large and long beak that can help it to reach the food that is found on the weaker branch as well. Now students, the next animals are lions and tigers. Students, lions and tigers have very thick skin, sharp eyesight and sensitive hearing that helps it to locate its prey. Now the next animal is the lion-tailed macaque. Students, this lion-tailed macaque is also known as beard ape, and students, this lion-tailed macaque usually live on the trees in the tropical forest because they can find their food easily on the trees like insects, seeds, fruits, leaves, flowers and stems. Students, this lion-tailed macaque also have silver white mane, means to say silver white hair on its face, and that's why they are called as lion-tailed ape. Now students, that's all about your chapter number 7, and with this topic here your chapter number 7 is completed. Now I will be come back soon with another chapter. Till then, stay home, stay safe and stay healthy.